there's been plenty of discussion about GI distress whenever the topic of how much carb intake can your body handle is discussed. I started to take carbs on the bike, roughly about 55 grams per hour, one gel and some sports mix. However, I find I get, and he says, the runs, so diarrhea, and not the triathlon kind, he says. Is this the GI distress you refer to? And if so, how does one go about increasing up to 80 to 100 grams per hour per ride or on a ride? Any tips or tricks, or is this some kind of secret silent suffering that you all unsung heroes just tough out? Apologies if it's breakfast time, wherever you listeners may be. Yes. Well, this is like a super important thing to cover because there are a lot of athletes that are in this situation. They're just wondering, like, how does everybody else do this? My gut is just completely destroyed anytime I try to take in this sort of stuff. So yes, that GI distress manifests itself in two ways, well, three ways really: discomfort of your gut, gas, and diarrhea. Or I guess usually in most cases, it's not going to be something that's causing you to throw up. That would be different. We're talking once it's getting down into your intestines and everything else. And that's where the discomfort comes, right, Pete?
Yeah. And they're kind of stages. So if you have GI discomfort, that's step one. And so that's a good sign of things you're on the trajectory to lead to the next things. So start paying attention to the way your gut feels earlier. And that's a good leading indicator about your intake and what it's going to cause if you're going to continue with the same kind of intake numbers that you're working with right now. And I think people could pay attention earlier on. It's yeah, I guess we can just back it up a little bit. I think people aiming for a number, an artificial number that they hear us talk about or other people talk about, is the wrong way to do it. 100% you should start low and work your way up and train yourself just like everything else. I mean, you don't jump into VO2 max efforts at 125% for minutes. Like, let's start easy, bring it up. The other thing that's important is the carbohydrate way, the way that our body turns carbohydrate into ATP is like, it's very basic overall, but we're all so different on the way our gut handles things and the types of, like whether that's drink mix or gels or blocks or rice, however that works. Everybody's going to kind of be in a different boat to start out with. And so I think starting light and starting with simple things, starting with one, I would generally encourage people to start with one thing. So pick your one carbohydrate source for the ride and start really low and aim for 20, like don't even aim, start as low as you can, 20 grams an hour, something like that. And 40 grams, and step up just a little bit at a time. And you're going to be more in tune with how it's making you feel and that GI distress. And you're going to actually find your, closer to limits, but I would say find your happy place where you can work and hang out for a while. So you can hang out and do a couple of weeks of 30 grams an hour while your body adjusts and you get better at it and you're finding your correct fuel source. And I think if you're not happy with one of your fuel sources, you should change, like still go through things, because once you find something that works, it's going to be really apparent that it's a lot better than other things in that same realm. Like I think, John, you have a favorite fueling source and it works much better than everything else, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I really want to nail home what you just said about simplifying the sources in your gut. A lot of the time we're like pineapple aloha gel, and then we're like hops and birthday cake gel, and then we mix in like 3 different types of drink, and then we throw in like a Cliff Bar, and then we wonder why our stomach hurts. And sure, it could be just the fact that you took in too many grams per hour, but let's assume that you somehow hit a very reasonable grams per hour of carbs that you took into your gut. Who knows what sort of reaction that pineapple aloha with a Cliff Bar with something else is doing in your stomach. That's why I'm a huge proponent of simplifying your carb intake sources and getting rid of, I even get like, so I'm an extreme example here, but I get rid of flavors. Like I don't want flavor. I just want sugar. Like just give me jet fuel. Like don't give me jet fuel that tastes like something else or smells like something else. That's not what I want. I just want the jet fuel itself. And when you do that, it allows you to really narrow it down and figure out what's causing the GI distress. Is it actually the amount of carbs per hour, or is it just the potent cocktail you've dumped into your gut and you're asking your gut to work out? So it's really important to go through this measured process like Pete's talking about. Don't shoot for some crazy number. Instead, focus on what you can take in and focus on really testing a specific thing out. And then you can test something else out. For me, it's glucose and fructose. And I won't share this week, but on a coming week, I'm feeling like I'm learning a whole lot about glucose and fructose and specific ratios and types of riding that work best for me. But it's all because I'm following Pete's approach of being very measured about what I'm taking in and at what quantity and doing all of that. But the GI distress still can happen. And like, I can experience it sometimes. Like I tipped up from like my 100 grams an hour up to like 130 grams an hour because I took in a gel earlier than I planned to. And yeah, my gut started to feel uncomfortable at 130 grams per hour, but then I was able to kind of taper off for a little bit and manage it and still go through. So Ben, you aren't suffering alone. Lots of us suffer with this. So Keegan, you've had a huge improvement with this year, right? And figuring out your proper race gas nutrition. So, oh, Keegan's muted. There we go.
Unmuted. Yeah, it's definitely been like I've been experimenting a bit more, just trying to figure out how much I can take in. And really, I started doing it all before the White Room FKT because I was like, man, I don't want to carry like 15 goos with me or whatever, whatever it would have been. So I started, moving more calories into the drink and just kind of played with different ratios and kind of found what worked for me. And then I do a lot of harder like endurance kind of tempo rides. On those rides, it's a little more focused on like what I'm eating. I'll try and like keep it a little simpler and just like make sure the workout is like I can do everything properly. If it's like an easier endurance ride, I'm just doing like 3 to 5 hours of like zone 1, 2, I'll like, throw in something new or like, go to a gas station, just get whatever I want, whatever I feel like. And if it works, then it's like, okay, I can try that on a harder ride. And then if that works there, then I can try it on an interval day. And if it works on interval day, then I can move it to a race day. So I have like stages that I'll test things in and find what works for me. I think that's a good way to do it. Like if you're just doing an easy ride, you can kind of throw the kitchen sink at it and see like, what sticks and what's going to work. And then if something upsets you, then you like narrow it down and like cut out some fats or cut out high fructose corn syrup. Cause I know like high fructose corn syrup doesn't sit well with some people. Like I'm okay taking in a bit of it. Like I can go to a gas station and grab a Coke or like I can get like, gummy worms or whatever. And I'm fine. But maybe if I had too much of it, maybe it would throw me off. Can also race with those things a little bit. I'm also okay. So I think you just have to find like what works for you and balance it out. I also like too much fiber, too much fat, never good unless it's like super long, super easy ride. But you did a Successful Athletes podcast with Taylor Lundeen, and his approach was pretty similar. Like when he's training, he just like goes nuts. He'll drink and eat just as much as he can and like different varieties. And like, you just want to like train your stomach to handle anything. Cause sometimes, in the middle of a race, so you drop a bottle and you have to grab someone else's bottle, or maybe like you get handed some random thing and you're like, well, it's either water or I drink this drink mix,
Mm-hmm.
So I think you have to be a little bit flexible and like train your body to just take what it's given. Sometimes maybe you're used to jet fuel and you end up with mower gas and that's just what it's going to be. So I think it's good to like, I think you have to like, you're not always in the driver's seat of what you're going to get. I know there's some races, like for example, Crusher and the Tusher, the gravel race here in Utah. There's no feeds, like you're not allowed to grab anything, but they do have like neutral bottles that have, I can't remember what brand mix they use, but it's not something that I use. So maybe I would get some of that. I would look at what they're going to use and I would train with it for a couple of weeks beforehand, for example, or at least use something similar, like have a similar kind of sugar or mix, whatever they're using. So just some other stuff to think about. Like you're not always going to have like exactly what you want. And in order to do that, you might end up carrying 5 extra pounds worth of like drink or goos or whatever you're carrying. So I think it's good to be flexible too. And like also try other things that's outside of what you feel comfortable with.
Especially when you're Taylor Ladine and your mid-ride stops on a 350-mile race at Unbound is
right.
a gas station in the middle of Kansas. So you're just
at a gas stations are pretty reliable. You can always find a few certain things. So as long as you like, what you can handle.
Donuts.
Coconut crumb donuts, he
Lay's
was drinking
potato chips.
What blew my mind is the milk. He was drinking strawberry milk, and I'm like, dude, that is gnarly. I appreciate that. Like,
Yeah.
down milk.
I don't know how he does it. Yeah, he
training,
even brought in
you know?
like beef jerky, but he was like, dude, in those races, I go through such a wild experience in 350 miles. He's like, I just need to have some specific thing. So when he's training, he's just like, he goes to the grocery or he goes to the gas station and basically just like sweeps the shelf and just like tries everything to try to, that's part of his training regimen, right? Whereas an Ironman athlete in particular, they have to find out what's going to be served to them, like at Crusher and the Tusher, and then they have to train with that, you know, or you can be a fussy cyclist like me and be very fragile. Everything's perfect until it's not.
Yeah.
And it's
or like, you know, for me, for Leadville and Breck, I had the same thing every time, like all day. There's nothing deviated. So like, you got to keep, I think when it's like a key race and like you're going, like you're riding at the limit, you want to try and optimize it. But it doesn't always have to be that way. So, and some people just are more flexible and they can eat whatever they want. Like Ryan Standish can eat whatever he wants. I feel like he'll just be smashing Pop-Tarts and like, you know, doing things and like, man, you know, if it works for you, it works for you. So it's like, not everyone's the same. So
yeah. V10 runs hot. You can put anything
V10,
in there. Yeah.
You can just dump it in. Motor gas, jet fuel, diesel fuel. Just give it to it.
You can handle it all. That's Ryan for you.
If you like this video, make sure you give us a thumbs up.
If you didn't like this video, you can give it a thumbs down, but let us know what you would have done differently in the comments below.
If you want to see more of these videos, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you want to become a faster cyclist, check out TrainerRoad.com.
Do it.